The smell of fried noodles filled the small kitchen of the transport ship Meadowlark. Daquan wiped sweat from his forehead and plated the last meal for the evening shift. He was a big man with strong hands and a round face that smiled easily. His white apron had sauce stains from 10 years of cooking in space. At 43 years old, Day had seen many stations and many ports, but he never tired of feeding hungry travelers. "Good food tonight, chef," said Captain Briggs, poking his head through the serving window. Day nodded and started cleaning his knives. He had 7 of them, each for different jobs. The smallest was for delicate work. The largest was for cutting through bone, but his favorite was the middle one, a plain kitchen knife with a wooden handle worn smooth from use. He had bought it 15 years ago on Earth, and it had never failed him. The Meadowlark docked at Terminus 9 just after midnight ship time. The station was massive, a wheel of metal and glass spinning in the darkness of space. Day had been here twice before. It was a neutral station where ships from all species could trade and rest. But this time was different. The station was crowded with ships. Banners hung from every docking arm and the lights were brighter than usual. "What's going on?" Day asked a crew member. "The ground melee," the woman replied. "Oh, it's some kind of fighting tournament. All the warrior types come here to watch. Should be good for business," Day shrugged. Fighting tournaments did not interest him. He planned to visit the market, buy some fresh herbs that did not grow well in hydroponics, and return to his ship. Simple plans for a simple man. The market district of Terminus 9 was always busy, but today it was chaos. Aliens of every shape and size pushed through the crowds. Day saw tall, thin beings with 4 arms. He saw short, furry creatures that moved in groups. He saw warriors in armor carrying weapons that hummed with energy. The air smelled of 1,000 different foods, and the electronic chatter of translation devices buzzed everywhere. Day found his herb seller, an old Zentari female who grew plants in her shop's back room. He was examining a bunch of fresh basil when he heard shouting nearby. The crowd parted, and Day saw 3 alien warriors surrounding a young human girl. She was maybe 19 or 20 with short black hair and wide, frightened eyes. Her name tag said Hana and identified her as a colonist from New Sol. The warriors were Skarathi, reptilian beings with blue scales and eyes like a cat. They wore ceremonial robes marked with complex symbols. One of them was speaking in a harsh, clicking language. Day's translator earpiece struggled to keep up. "You have insulted us by touch. You must restore honor through combat or be marked as coward." "I didn't mean to bump into you," Hana said, her voice shaking. "I was just trying to get past. Please, I don't know how to fight." The largest Skarathi leaned down, his face close to hers. "Then you will bleed quickly, human." "The shame will be brief." Other humans in the crowd looked away. The station security guards, all mercenaries hired by the station owners, stood back with their arms crossed. This was legal under galactic law. If someone insulted a warrior and was challenged, they had to fight or be forever marked as a coward in every database in known space. It would ruin Hana's life. Day set down his basil. He walked through the crowd until he stood beside Hana. He was not tall, but he was solid. His cook's arms were strong from years of lifting heavy pots and cutting through tough meat. "I invoke the right of substitution," Day said clearly. The Skarathi warriors turned to look at him. The translator earpieces of everyone nearby chimed as the words were processed. The crowd fell silent. "You?" the lead Skarathi said. "You would fight for this hatchling?" "Yes," Day said. "She did nothing wrong. You are looking for a fight. I will give you one." The Skarathi began to laugh. It was a terrible sound, like stones grinding together. Other aliens in the crowd joined in. A human in a stained apron smelling of garlic and oil was challenging warriors. It was absurd. "Very well, human," the Skarathi said. "But you have challenged Velthar's students. The master will want to see this. You will fight not us, but him." A ripple went through the crowd. People stepped back. Velthar, even Day had heard that name. He was the greatest swordsman in the galaxy. Undefeated for 300 years. He was the champion of the Grand Melee, the blade master who had never lost. "When?" Day asked, keeping his voice steady. "Tomorrow at noon, in the central arena. The whole galaxy will watch you die, human." The Skarathi left, their laughter echoing behind them. The crowd dispersed, many beings shaking their heads or making gestures that Day's translator could not interpret. Hana grabbed his arm. "Why did you do that?" she asked, tears in her eyes. "You're going to die because of me." Day patted her hand gently. "No one is going to die. Go back to your ship." Stay there until this is over. But Velthar, he's never lost. Everyone knows. He killed 12 warriors last year who challenged him. I know, Day said. He picked up his forgotten basil and paid the herb seller who would not meet his eyes. Day returned to the Meadowlark. Captain Briggs had heard the news. Everyone on the station had heard by now. The communications networks were already buzzing with the story. A human cook challenging the galaxy's greatest warrior. Betting odds appeared on displays throughout the station. 10,000 to 1 against Day surviving. In his small cabin, Day laid out his knife roll on his bunk. 7 knives, each clean and sharp. He picked up his favorite, the middle one with the wooden handle. The blade was 20 centimeters long, carbon steel, nothing fancy. He had used it to cut vegetables, slice meat, and create thousands of meals. The edge was so sharp he could shave with it. Day spent the evening sharpening the knife. He used a whetstone he had owned since his training days. The rhythm was meditative. Slide the blade across the stone, 45-degree angle. Listen for the sound that meant the edge was true. He did this for 3 hours until the blade could cut through paper by its own weight. Someone knocked on his door. It was Tae-sung, a young shuttle pilot who worked between the station and nearby ships. Dee had cooked for him many times. I heard what you did, Tae-sung said. That was brave. It was necessary, Day replied. Do you have a weapon? I could get you something. A plasma sword, maybe, or a neural disruptor. Day held up his kitchen knife. I have what I need. Tae-sung stared at the knife. Then he stared at Day. You're going to fight Velthar with a kitchen knife? Yes. You're insane, Day smiled. Maybe, but this knife has been with me for 15 years. I know its weight. I know its balance. I know exactly what it can do. That is more than most warriors can say about their weapons. Tae-sung left, shaking his head. Day finished sharpening his knife and placed it back in his roll. He did not sleep much that night. Instead, he thought about his teacher, Master Hong, who had trained him in the culinary arts back on Earth. A knife is a tool, Master Hong had said. Respect the tool, respect the ingredient, respect the craft. A good knife in skilled hands can create anything. Tomorrow, Day thought, we will see if that is true. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. By morning, every major network was covering the story. A human cook named Day Quan would fight Velthar, the undefeated blade master with nothing but a kitchen knife. Some called it brave. Most called it suicide. The betting houses were making fortunes on the ridiculous odds. Day woke early and made himself breakfast. Eggs, rice, and kimchi, simple food that reminded him of home. He ate slowly, tasting everything. If these were his last hours, he wanted to remember what good food tasted like. Captain Briggs came to his cabin. The old captain looked worried, his face lined with concern. You can still back out, Briggs said. Pay a fine. Take the coward mark. It's better than dying. Day cleaned his plate and set it aside. Would you respect me if I did that? Briggs was silent for a long moment. No, he finally said. I suppose I wouldn't. Then I must fight. Across the station, in a luxury suite reserved for champions, Velthar prepared for the duel. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with blue scales that seemed to glow in the morning light. His eyes were golden and ancient. He had lived for 400 years and fought in more battles than most beings could count. His students brought him his ceremonial armor. It was made from the scales of his first kill, a war beast from his homeworld. They brought him his sword, a crystalline blade that hummed with contained energy. The weapon had been forged in the heart of a dying star. It could cut through steel, stone, or flesh with equal ease. Master, one of his students said, why do you take this seriously? The human is nothing. A cook with a kitchen knife. This is beneath you. Velthar ran his clawed hand along the edge of his blade. Every opponent deserves respect, he said. From the weakest to the strongest. To do less would dishonor the blade itself. But, Master, he cannot possibly. Silence, Velthar said, but his voice was not angry. You are young. You think power is everything. But I have learned something in my 4 centuries. The most dangerous opponents are not always the ones you expect. This human did something remarkable yesterday. What, Master? He was not afraid. Or if he was, he did not let fear control him. He saw someone in danger and he acted. That takes a different kind of strength. Velthar stood and lifted his sword. I will defeat him. I will show the galaxy that humans are not warriors, but I will do it properly, with honor. The students bowed and left. Velthar stood alone in his chambers looking out at the stars. He thought about his own youth, when he had first held a blade. His father had taught him that a sword was an extension of the soul. Every movement, every strike, every defense, all of it came from the warrior's spirit. What spirit, he wondered, could a cook have? What could a man who created food know about the art of destruction? He would find out soon enough. The central arena of Terminus 9 was a marvel of engineering. It was a perfect sphere, 100 meters in diameter, made entirely of transparent metal. It floated in space, held in place by gravity generators. Inside, the fighters would have normal gravity and air. Outside, thousands of ships gathered to watch through the clear walls. Day arrived at the arena at 11:30. The crowd was enormous. He could see beings from species he had never encountered before. Camera drones filled the air like metal insects. Translators broadcast the pre-fight commentary in 8,000 languages. A fight coordinator met him at the entrance. She was Zentari, with purple skin and eyes that could see in multiple spectrums. "Do you understand the rules?" she asked, reading from a datapad. "First blood wins," Day said, "or incapacitation. Or death if it cannot be avoided, correct? Energy shields will protect the audience. Medical team, stand ready. Do you wish to wear armor? No. Do you wish to choose a different weapon? The station armory is open to you. No." She looked at the kitchen knife tucked in his belt. Her expression was impossible to read. "As you wish. May your ancestors watch over you." Day walked into the arena. The floor was solid and slightly textured for grip. The transparent walls gave the strange sensation of standing in empty space. Earth was visible in the distance, a blue and white marble. Day had been born there in a small city by the sea. He remembered his mother's cooking, the smell of fish stew on cold mornings. The crowd's noise hit him like a physical wave. They were not cheering. They were laughing. Mockery in 8,000 languages. Day ignored it. He had worked in busy kitchens where head chefs screamed and orders came faster than thought. He knew how to focus. Velthar entered from the opposite side. The laughter stopped. The great warrior walked with grace despite his size. His armor caught the light and reflected it in blue patterns. His sword hummed, a low note that Day could feel in his chest. The weapon was beautiful and terrible. They met in the center of the arena. Velthar towered over Day by more than 2 feet. His golden eyes studied the human with interest. "You are brave, human," Velthar said in perfect common language. "I respect this. But bravery alone will not save you. I will make your death quick." Day pulled out his kitchen knife. The wooden handle was warm from his body heat. The blade was simple steel, dull gray in color. Next to Velthar's crystalline sword, it looked like a toy. "I am Day Quan," he said. "I am a cook. This is my knife. I have used it for 15 years to create food and bring joy to others. Today, I will use it to protect someone who could not protect herself. That is all." Something flickered in Velthar's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or respect. "You are an interesting creature, Day Quan. I will remember your name." The fight coordinator's voice echoed through the arena. "Combatants ready? The duel begins in 10 seconds. 9, 8. Day took a breath and settled into a stance. It was not a warrior's stance. It was the position he used when breaking down a large fish. Feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, weight balanced. One hand forward, one back. The knife held loosely, ready to move. 3, 2, 1, begin. The crowd roared. Velthar raised his sword. Day Quan raised his kitchen knife. The galaxy held its breath. Velthar did not rush. He moved forward with controlled grace, his sword held in a classic opening position. This was a test strike, Day realized, meant to judge his opponent's skill. The blade came down in a diagonal cut, fast but not at full speed. Day did something that made the crowd gasp. He did not try to block. He did not try to dodge away. Instead, he shifted his weight slightly to the left. The energy blade passed so close to his chest that it burned a line across his apron. At the same moment, Day's knife moved in a tight arc. It touched the energy blade for just a fraction of a second. The crystalline sword sparked and veered off course. Velthar's eyes widened. Day had used the same motion he used to redirect a knife when cutting around bones. Find the angle, use the pressure. Let the obstacle guide the blade rather than fight it. The energy sword had momentum. Day had simply helped it go where it already wanted to go. Velthar recovered instantly. He attacked again, this time with more speed. 3 strikes came at Day from different angles. Each one should have been impossible to avoid in the time given. But Day had worked in small kitchens on rocking ships during rough weather. He knew how to move in tight spaces. He knew how to be where the danger was not. The fight was 30 seconds old and Velthar was confused. This had never happened before. The human should be dead or bleeding. Instead, he was moving like water, like smoke, like something that could not be touched. Velthar pressed his attack. 7 strikes in 3 seconds, each one precise and deadly. The crystalline blade hummed through the air, leaving trails of blue light. Any one of those strikes could cut a combat drone in half. Day's kitchen knife moved in response. But he was not fighting the way warriors fought. He was not blocking or parrying in the traditional sense. Instead, his movements looked like cooking. His knife made the same motions he used when filleting a fish or trimming fat from meat. Small controlled cuts, economic movements that wasted no energy. When Velthar struck from above, Day's knife met the energy blade at an angle and guided it past his shoulder. When Velthar struck from the side, Day rotated his wrist and redirected the blow downward into empty space. Each time, the kitchen knife touched the energy sword for only a moment, just long enough to change its direction. The crowd had stopped laughing. In the observation boxes above the arena, military commanders from a dozen species leaned forward. This was not what they expected to see. "Impossible," whispered a Kryn admiral, his tentacles twitching with excitement. "He's using the energy blade's own momentum against it." In another box, Admiral Una Park of the Earth Defense Force watched through narrowed eyes. She was a small woman with gray hair and 3 decades of combat experience. She had seen many fighting styles in her career, but never anything like this. "It's adaptation," she said to her aide. "Pure human adaptation. He's taking skills from one context and applying them to another. That's what we do. That's what makes us dangerous." On the arena floor, Velthar was beginning to breathe hard. He had not breathed hard in combat for 200 years. The human was not attacking, only defending, but somehow that defense was absolute. Every strike Velthar made was turned aside by millimeters. Every opening he created closed before he could exploit it. Day's mind was calm. He was not thinking about winning or losing. He was not thinking about death. He was simply reading the patterns the same way he read ingredients. A tomato tells you when it is ripe by its color and smell. A piece of meat tells you when it is done by its texture and sound. Velthar's sword told him where it would go by the way the warrior's shoulders moved, the way his weight shifted. Master Hong had taught him this. "A good cook reads his ingredients," the old man had said. "The knife is just the tool. Your mind and body must understand what you are cutting before the blade ever touches it." Velthar changed tactics. He stopped using pure sword work and began to incorporate his body. He was stronger than any human, faster with longer reach. He tried to use his claws, his tail, his armored shoulders. He moved in for a grappling strike that would put them chest to chest, where the kitchen knife's short reach would be useless. But Day moved like someone who had spent 15 years working in cramped kitchens during turbulent space travel. He knew how to navigate tight spaces. He knew how to avoid hot ovens and sharp corners and other cooks moving quickly in limited areas. When Velthar came close, Day was already somewhere else. Not far away, just repositioned. A step to the left, a pivot on his heel, a duck under an extended arm. Frustration crept into Velthar's movements. This was wrong. This should not be happening. The human had no formal training. His weapon was absurd. His stance was improper. Everything about this fight violated the principles of combat that Velthar had studied for 400 years. And yet, the human was winning. No, Velthar corrected himself. The human was not winning. He was simply not losing. There was a difference. Day had not attacked once. He had not tried to hurt Velthar. He was only surviving. But survival, Velthar realized with growing unease, was sometimes enough. The fight was 3 minutes old. 3 minutes was longer than most of Velthar's duels lasted. His students in the audience sat with their mouths open. Other warriors whispered among themselves. The betting odds were changing rapidly. 10,000 to 1 became 5,000 to 1, then 1,000 to 1. The odds kept dropping. Velthar stepped back and took a breath. He saluted Day with his sword, a gesture of respect. "You are skilled," Velthar said. "More skilled than I anticipated. But you only defend. Do you think you can win without attacking?" Day kept his kitchen knife ready. "I do not need to win," he said. "I only need to not lose. There is no honor in endless defense." "I am not a warrior," Day replied. I do not care about honor in combat. I care about keeping my promise. I promised to protect someone. I am keeping that promise. Velthar felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to identify the feeling. It was admiration. This human, this cook with his simple knife, had a purity of purpose that most warriors never achieved. He was not fighting for glory or reputation. He was fighting because someone needed protection. Very well, Velthar said. Then I will show you why I am the champion. He shifted his stance into something Day had not seen before. It was an ancient Skorathi form, one that left no defense. Velthar's entire body became committed to a single purpose, one perfect strike that could not be blocked, could not be redirected, could not be avoided. The crowd recognized the stance. A collective gasp went through the thousands of spectators. Velthar had used this technique only twice before, both times against opponents he considered truly worthy. Both opponents had died. Day watched Velthar's body language change. The warrior was gathering everything into one moment. Day had seen similar focus before in Master Hong, when the old chef prepared to make the first cut into a perfect piece of fish. That moment when preparation met action, when thought became movement, Day understood. This was the end. One way or another, the fight would be decided in the next few seconds. He shifted his own stance slightly. It was not a warrior's stance. It was the position every chef knew. The moment before the knife enters the ingredient, every muscle ready, every angle calculated, patience meeting precision. The arena fell silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Two fighters separated by 10 feet of empty space, both poised on the edge of action. Velthar's golden eyes met Day's brown ones. For a moment there was understanding between them. Two masters of their crafts meeting in a place neither expected. Then they moved. Velthar's strike was perfect. The energy blade came down in an arc that seemed to cut reality itself. The air screamed. Light bent around the crystalline sword. It was a strike that had ended wars, that had carved mountains, that had never been defeated. Day's kitchen knife rose to meet it. The motion was simple. It was the same motion he used to separate silver skin from a tenderloin, moving up through the connective tissue at exactly the right angle. His eyes saw something others could not see. The energy blade was not solid. It pulsed. It oscillated. It had moments of strength and moments of weakness. Tiny gaps in its power cycle measured in fractions of seconds. The blades met. For one impossible moment, the kitchen knife and the energy sword touched. The steel should have vaporized instantly. The human should have died. The laws of physics said this was impossible, but Day's angle was perfect. His edge alignment was flawless. The kitchen knife found the microscopic gap in the energy blade's power cycle, the instant when destruction paused to gather itself. The steel did not try to match force with force. It simply passed through the gap. The energy blade stuttered. Its hum changed pitch. Velthar's eyes widened in shock. Day's kitchen knife continued its upward arc. The motion was clean and controlled. The blade moved past Velthar's sword and continued toward the warrior's face. Day could have struck the throat. He could have aimed for the eyes. Instead, his knife traced a line across Velthar's scaled cheek, so light it barely broke the skin. A thin line of blue blood appeared on the Skorathi's face. First blood. The arena was absolutely silent. 10,000 beings held their breath. Camera drones hovered motionless in the air. Even the hum of the station's life support system seemed to fade away. Velthar stood frozen. He reached up slowly and touched his cheek. His clawed fingers came away wet with blue blood. He stared at it as if he had never seen his own blood before. Perhaps Day thought he had not. Not in combat. Not in 300 years. The silence stretched for 3 full seconds. Then Velthar began to laugh. It was not the grinding, mocking laugh from before. This was different. This was genuine, full of surprise and joy. The sound echoed through the arena, growing louder. Velthar threw his head back and laughed like someone who had just discovered something wonderful. The crowd erupted. Not in mockery now, but in shock and amazement. Beings jumped from their seats. Camera drones swarmed forward. Translation devices crackled with 1,000 different languages, all expressing the same disbelief. Velthar lowered his sword. The energy blade powered down, the crystal becoming dull. He approached Day slowly, still chuckling. Then, in a motion that made his students gasp, Velthar knelt. He placed his sword on the ground between them and touched his forehead to the arena floor. It was the Skarathi gesture of ultimate respect. A warrior only made it once in a lifetime, to someone they considered truly superior. "I have learned something today," Belthar said, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena. "I have learned that I was a fool. For 400 years I believed I understood the blade. I studied forms. I practiced techniques. I mastered power and speed and precision, but I did not understand the true nature of mastery." He rose and looked at Day with his golden eyes. "You have defeated me not because you are a greater warrior. You are not a warrior at all. You defeated me because you are a master of your tool in a way I never was of mine. I respected my sword. But you understand your knife." "There is a difference," Day felt embarrassed. He tucked his kitchen knife back into his belt. "I am just a cook who knows his knife," he said. "You are a magnificent swordsman. On another day with another opponent you would have won." "No," Belthar said firmly. "There are no other days. There is only today. And today you taught me that true mastery comes not from the weapon, but from the relationship between tool and wielder. I have been arrogant. I thought my power made me invincible. You showed me that understanding is greater than power." The fight coordinator approached cautiously. She looked stunned, her purple skin pale. "The match is concluded," she announced. "First blood to Dai Quan. The human is declared the victor." The crowd's roar was deafening. Dee's head spun. He had not expected to survive, let alone win. He looked around at thousands of alien faces, all of them staring at him with expressions he could not read. Belthar offered his hand. Dee shook it. The warrior's grip was gentle despite his strength. "What will you do now?" Belthar asked. "You have defeated the champion of the Grand Melee. You could claim the title. You could accept challenges from other warriors. You could become famous," Day smiled. "I will return to my ship and cook dinner. That is what I do. That is who I am. You do not want glory?" "No, I wanted to help someone. I have done that. Now I want to go back to work." Belthar laughed again, softer this time. "You are a strange creature, Daquan, but I think perhaps you are wiser than all of us." The next hours passed in a blur. Reporters surrounded Day. Cameras followed him everywhere. Beings from 100 species wanted interviews, wanted to shake his hand, wanted to know his secrets. Day answered questions politely but said very little. He had no secrets. He was just a cook. Captain Briggs found him eventually and helped him escape back to the Meadowlark. The crew cheered when he came aboard. Someone had painted Champion on his cabin door. Day wiped it off and went inside to rest. That evening, Hana came to his ship. She had been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for saving me. I will never forget what you did." Day made her tea and they sat in the small galley. "You do not need to thank me," he said. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Hana said. "No one else did." Everyone looked away. "Only you helped." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Hana asked, "Will you teach me?" "Not sword fighting. I never want to fight, but cooking. Will you teach me to cook?" Dee smiled. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I will teach you." Across the station, in his luxury suite, Belthar sat with his students. They were confused and upset. Their master had been defeated by a cook. "It made no sense, master," one of them said. "How did this happen? How did a human with a kitchen knife defeat you?" Belthar was cleaning his sword, running a cloth along the crystalline blade. "He defeated me because I was thinking like a warrior," he said. "I saw a fight. He saw a problem to solve. I tried to use power. He used understanding. I fought with my ego. He fought with his purpose." "But you are the greatest swordsman in the galaxy." "Was," Belthar corrected. "I was the greatest. Now I am a student again. And that is good. One should never stop learning." He finished cleaning his sword and set it aside. "Tomorrow I will send a message to the Galactic Council. I will recommend that humans be given a seat at the table. Any species that can produce someone like Daquan deserves respect. But master, one human does not represent all of them." Belthar looked at his student with ancient eyes. "You are wrong. Every human I have met shares something with Daquan. They adapt. They improvise. They take what they have and make it work in ways no one expects. They do not follow the rules. They rewrite them." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "The galaxy has been stable for 1,000 years because everyone follows the same patterns. Humans will change that. They will make us uncomfortable. They will challenge our assumptions. And that is exactly what we need. News of the duel spread across the galaxy at the speed of light, but the implications spread even faster. In military academies on 24 worlds, the footage was analyzed frame by frame. Combat instructors argued about what they had seen. New theories of fighting emerged, based on the idea of adaptation rather than tradition. On Earth, the story made headlines. A cook had defeated an alien champion with a kitchen knife. Sales of kitchen knives to professional chefs increased by 300%. Several cooking schools began teaching blade work with a new emphasis on precision and understanding. Day knew none of this. He was too busy teaching Hana how to properly hold a knife. 3 days after the duel, Terminus 9 was still crowded with reporters and curious beings from across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see the place where the impossible had happened. Tour groups gathered at the arena. Souvenir sellers did excellent business selling replica kitchen knives. The station's economy boomed. Day tried to ignore all of it. He stayed on the Meadowlark and did his job. He cooked breakfast for the crew. He prepared lunch for passengers. He made dinner for Captain Briggs and his officers. The work was familiar and comforting. This was what he understood. On the 4th day, an invitation arrived. It was printed on real paper, an expensive luxury in space. The words were written in elegant script that Day's translator struggled to process. It was from the Galactic Council, requesting his presence at a formal ceremony. They wanted to give him a medal and make a speech about human potential. Day politely declined. He did not want medals. He did not want speeches. He wanted to be left alone to cook. On the 5th day, Velthar came to visit. The great warrior had to duck to fit through the Meadowlark's narrow corridors. He found Day in the galley, teaching Hana how to cut vegetables properly. The carrot tells you how it wants to be cut, Day was saying. See the grain? See how the fibers run? Cut with the grain for long pieces. Cut across the grain for rounds. Listen to what the ingredient is telling you. Velthar watched in silence. After a while, he said, I have been thinking about what you said, about listening to your tools, about understanding rather than controlling. Day looked up. Would you like some tea? Yes. Thank you. They sat in the small galley while Hana practiced her knife work. Velthar looked out of place, his large frame squeezed into a chair meant for humans, but his golden eyes were thoughtful. I have decided to study human culture, Velthar said. Not just fighting, but everything. Your music, your food, your philosophy. I want to understand what makes you different. We are not so different, Day said. We all want the same things. Safety, happiness, purpose. Perhaps. But you achieve those things in unexpected ways. Velthar sipped his tea carefully. I spoke to the Galactic Council yesterday. I recommended that humans be given full membership with voting rights and diplomatic status. Day paused in pouring his own tea. Because of one fight? Because of what that fight represented. For 1,000 years, the galaxy has operated on certain assumptions. Power equals respect. Military strength equals influence. Traditional skills equal mastery. You challenged all of those assumptions with a kitchen knife and won. Velthar set down his cup. The galaxy needs that kind of thinking. I just did what needed to be done. Exactly. You saw a problem and solved it with what you had. That is the human way, I think. Improvisation, adaptation, making the impossible work somehow. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Hana finished cutting her vegetables and brought them over for inspection. Day examined them carefully. Better, he said. But see here, this cut is uneven. Try again. Hana nodded seriously and went back to work. Velthar smiled at the interaction. She will be a good student, the warrior said. She has the right attitude, willing to learn, not afraid of failure. Failure is part of learning, Day said. I have burned 1,000 dishes. I have cut myself 100 times. Every mistake taught me something. I wish I had learned that earlier in life, Velthar said quietly. I was afraid of failure. That is why I fought so hard to maintain my record. 300 years undefeated. I thought that meant something. But you showed me it meant nothing. Victory without growth is just stagnation. Before Day could respond, Captain Briggs entered the galley. He looked excited. Day, you need to see this, he said. He held up a data pad. The betting houses. They're offering you money. A lot of money. Everyone who bet on you winning is demanding you accept a cut of their winnings. Day frowned. I do not understand. You were at 10,000 to 1 odds. Some humans bet on you anyway. A few bet substantial amounts. They won fortunes. Now they say you deserve part of it, since you're the one who actually won the fight. I do not want their money. Day, it is a lot of money, enough to buy your own ship, enough to open a restaurant on any station in the galaxy, enough to retire. Day thought about this. A restaurant, his own place. He could cook what he wanted, serve who he wanted. It was tempting. No, he said finally. If they want to give their money away, tell them to give it to Hannah. She needs it more than I do. Hannah looked up from her vegetables, shocked. What? No, I cannot accept that. It is too much. You will accept it, Day said firmly. You will use it to build a good life. Maybe open your own business, maybe help other young colonists who are in trouble. Make something good from this situation. Captain Briggs smiled. I will tell them. But Day, you know this means you are even more famous now, right? The human who defeated a champion and then gave away a fortune. The media is going to love this. Then we should leave, Day said. Are we not scheduled to depart soon? We were supposed to leave yesterday, but I delayed because of all the attention. If you are ready to go, we can launch within the hour. I am ready. The Meadowlark left Terminus 9 that evening. As the station shrank behind them, Day stood at the galley window and watched the stars. He felt relieved. Space was peaceful, quiet. Out here, he was just a cook again. Hannah joined him at the window. Thank you, she said, for everything, for saving me, for teaching me, for the money. I do not know how to repay you. There is nothing to repay. Just live a good life. Help others when you can. That is enough. She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, Did you know you would win? When you challenged those warriors, did you know you could defeat Velthar? Dai smiled. No, I thought I would probably die. But it did not matter. You needed help. Someone had to help. It might as well be me. That is insane, perhaps. But sometimes doing the right thing is a little bit insane. Weeks passed. The Meadowlark continued its route through human space, stopping at stations to trade and refuel. Dai cooked. Hannah learned. Life returned to normal. But across the galaxy, nothing was normal anymore. The fight had changed things in ways no one could have predicted. In military academies, instructors taught new theories about adaptive combat. Students studied the footage of Day's defensive movements. Entire courses emerged about the philosophy of tool mastery versus weapon obsession. In diplomatic circles, humans suddenly had new respect. Other species watched the videos and realized that humanity could not be judged by traditional standards. They operated on different principles. They solved problems in unexpected ways. That made them valuable allies and dangerous enemies. In the Galactic Council chambers, Admiral Una Park stood as the first human representative with full voting rights. She gave a speech about cooperation and mutual understanding, but everyone remembered why she was there, because a cook with a kitchen knife had done the impossible. Velthar kept his promise. He studied human culture with the same dedication he had once applied to sword work. He read human books. He listened to human music. He even learned to cook, taking lessons from a human chef on his home station. His students thought he had gone crazy, but Velthar knew better. He was finally learning what true mastery meant. On the Meadowlark, Day prepared dinner for the crew. It was a simple meal: rice, grilled fish, and vegetables. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, just good food made with care. His kitchen knife, the one that had defeated the galaxy's greatest swordsman, lay on the cutting board. It was freshly sharpened and clean. The wooden handle was smooth and warm. It was just a tool, nothing more. But in the right hands, With the right understanding, it could do anything. Hana came into the galley to help. She had been practicing for weeks now. Her knife work was improving. She still made mistakes, but fewer each day. "Chef," she said, "I was thinking, after I finish my training with you, I want to open a small restaurant. Nothing big, just a place where people can get good, simple food. Would you help me plan it?" Dee smiled. "Yes, I would be honored to help. And maybe I could call it the kitchen knife, in honor of what happened." Day thought about this while he seasoned the fish. "That is a good name," he said finally. "Simple, honest. It tells people what to expect. Yes, I like it." They worked together in comfortable silence. Outside the galley windows, stars streamed past as the meadowlark traveled through space. Somewhere out there, beings across the galaxy were still talking about the cook who had defeated a champion. Books were being written. Movies were being planned. Legends were forming. But in the small galley of a civilian transport ship, Dai Quan did what he had always done. He cooked. He taught. He found satisfaction in simple work done well. That evening, after dinner was served and the galley was clean, Day carefully dried his kitchen knife and placed it back in his knife roll. He touched the wooden handle gently, remembering. "Thank you," he whispered to the knife. "You have been a good friend." The knife, of course, said nothing. It was just a tool. But Day knew the truth that Velthar had learned too late. The power was never in the weapon. It was in the hands that held it. It was in the mind that understood it. It was in the heart that respected it. A cook with a kitchen knife had defeated the galaxy's greatest swordsman. Not because of magic, not because of luck, but because he understood his tool completely.